Welcome back to another video, and today I want to discuss the rumors that's going around with the Chicago Bears. More and more I keep hearing, and I post on my Instagram too, was more and more I believe from NFL executives and such that the Chicago Bears are planning to move on, I should say, from Justin Fields and using the first overall pick to draft a quarterback. I presume to be Bryce Young. You also have C.J. Stroud. You have Levis available for that spot. But I presume that the top pick, no doubt, is going to be Bryce Young, and I kind of want to discuss about that if it is the smart decision or not. Definitely a tricky one. I do, I see a lot of people saying that Fields is a bust. He can't play. He was a waste of a first round pick. It's kind of hard to judge a guy off of that when you don't have talent around him. Especially this year, I know they tried to go after him in the trade deadline, getting Chase Claypool that ended up being the 32nd overall pick, but it hasn't panned out. I'm not high on him. I don't think he's that good of a receiver. He didn't work out in the Steelers with more structural team, better coach, and such, better offense. I think overall, and if he couldn't do it there for the amount of years he was, I think he came in the league in 2020. How is it going to change now in Chicago? He's now the number one wide receiver when he wasn't that really in this with the Steelers, and if he was, definitely didn't live up to that. So how is he? If he couldn't do it there in a better situation, how is he going to be the number one receiver in this spot if he is viewed as that? And I just think it's a waste of a pick, or that they gave up. They could have used the second round pick, which again ended up being the 32nd overall pick because of the Dolphins being forced to forfeit their first round, so that became the 32nd, even though technically it's in the second round. You could have used that for a much better pick, much better higher ceiling of a wide receiver, or could have used that somewhere maybe on the offensive line or a running back or someone on the defense. You could have probably used that pick for a better player overall than Chase Claypool. And I think right there you messed it up. The only great piece they have around Fields is David Montgomery. Who knows what's going to happen with him in the future? If they eventually are going to move on from him, if they're going to extend him or not. You have Darnell Mooney, which has done, he's done a decent job, but again, you need more playmakers on here, and you have the number one cap space in the NFL. You have almost $100 million in cap space. You need to use it. You need to actually maximize that and build around them. If you haven't done it for Fields, who is a top 10 pick, what I hope. I mean, if you're moving on him and picking Bryce Young, I would hope you would use that money to build around him and actually get him a great team. And I'm kind of looking at the free agents. If you have that money, I'm going after to offensive line. Go after and get Orlando Brown. You have the money. Go spend the money on him. He is shown to be one of the best tackles in the NFL, and obviously has proved his worth with the Kansas City Chiefs, helping Mahomes help him win, especially this year, his Super Bowl, neutralizing that Eagles defense that I put out for my Super Bowl 57 preview. I thought that that was a big key for, and one of those questions was, can the Chiefs offensive line slow down the Eagles defense? And they did. They didn't even get a sack, and he has shown that ever since he went to the Kansas City, he is one of the best. So no doubt, go out if you are going to get a Bryce Young who has the problem concern with his size. Go get him a great tackle to help protect him. Outside of that, nothing too great for wide receivers for this class. One is Sterling Shepard. He is a free agent this year, and I think the Giants are letting him walk. So that might be a good good slot receiver for that. Also, again, you also have Mooney. You saw Chase Claypool. I know they're still gonna probably make that work either way. Um, but in terms of free agents for wide receivers, you don't have too great of options. Decent ones at best, like DJ Chark, decent Sterling Shepard, decent. You could say good. Nelson Aguilar, no pass on him. Randall Cobb, just up there in age, but if you want to do maybe for depth, I could see that. Marvin Jones, somewhere, is good. Is good, but With the age wise, I think you can definitely get a younger person and help build this team for the future. Julio Jones, pass on. He's way too injury prone, up there in age. He, especially the Bucks, he definitely did not work out. Was not there whatsoever. Allen Lazard, maybe if you want to throw money at him, that definitely could be a wide receiver you can go after. I doubt it. Jacoby Myers might be another one. Again, there's that's what's great about the Chicago situation. You have tons of money. You can go in so many directions with what you want to do. Again, I think your top priority is to throw as much money. Again, not overpay, but definitely be a contender for a team to go after get Orlando Brown, because the Chiefs, no doubt, are going to try their best to keep them. But with the money they have tied up with Mahomes and a lot of their players, I think that's gonna be really challenging for the Chiefs to really pay the money that he wants. So they most likely will have him walk, or they might franchise tag him. Again, I'm not sure, but definitely if you have the opportunity, go out there and get that great left tackle. Go take the Miami Dolphins strategy, what they did with Armstead. Go out there and get Orlando Brown, protect him. Looking at more of the receivers, Juju. I know he's on the TikTok boy, aka him. Had a good year. Definitely one of his best years since 2018 when he was elected to the Pro Bowl, when he had over 1,400 yards receiving. I believe that's what his stat was, but he made the Pro Bowl. His only great year after that, definitely riddled with injuries and just hasn't lived up to the number one wide receiver spot. So definitely got resurrected. But I probably pass on TikTok boy with that. Jarvis Landry again, definitely a good wide receiver, but just constantly injury prone. He's up there in age. Not the Miami Dolphins Jarvis Landry, or really Cleveland Browns Jarvis Landry. So I might pass up on him. And outside of that, you really don't have too much. I mean, you have Jamison Crowder. My team's probably my Bills might let him go because they have tons of cap problems. So they might get as much many players as possible to make that easier. So he's probably gone. Can't really give you too much on what I think about him. He got injured very early in the year, so I can't give you too much info on that. And even when he did play, it was decent at best. Sam Watkins, same way with who was I saying? With Jarvis Landry and then Julio, constantly injury prone. He's not even 30 years old, and he can't stay healthy. He only hit the one good year he had was, for his luck, was the Chiefs' first Super Bowl win under Mahomes in 2019. He played for almost basically the whole season, and he was able to cash it out a couple years later with Baltimore getting a decent contract. But after that, hasn't played well, and it's sad. That's definitely a huge swing and a miss for my Bills. Taking him 4th overall, could have taken Khalil Mack, but we needed a receiver. At the very least, we could have got Odell or Mike Evans, but it sucks. But it is what it is. Other than that, there's no other top option for them at the receiver position. For running backs, you still have Montgomery, but outside of that, you might have questions for to back him up. I think one might be definitely D'Onta Foreman. I'm very high on him. I think he's a very great player. He definitely revived his career with Tennessee last year and really backed it up this year with the Panthers especially taking over the starting role. At first splitting carries with Hubbard, but once he got hurt, he really became the main guy. But definitely showed his worth, especially after McCaffrey got traded before the deadline to San Francisco. Raheem Mostert definitely could be a great backup to Montgomery if you want to get that speed back. I know it's kind of similar. You have both receiving backs, but definitely could be a good backup. Samaje Perine. I kind of, a lot of these players I outlined in my Bills offseason video for that a lot. So that's kind of, I'm picking a lot of the same running backs for that. Samaje Perine, they're probably going to let him go because Cincinnati's going to be in cap problems. They're just trying to figure out more so with the contract, especially with Joe Burrow, trying to give him his big deal. I can mention him in my Lamar Jackson video, with especially them pushing the boundaries for resetting the market for contracts. So definitely, if he's going to do that, you're going to have to make moves to free up cap space. They're already having a controversy if you get trading T. Higgins. I keep hearing about Joe Mix potentially being cut, and definitely Samaje Perine. However much money they can save, they will do that. Another one is Miles Sanders. That could be a decent, a good option. He's 25 years old, still young. It would give you a great 1-2 punch at that position. Granted, they are basically similar running back style, but definitely would be depending on the money. Could be a good backup, a good solid 1A or 1B, however you want to feel about that. Going to free agency, his performance in the Super Bowl definitely I think will hurt his value. Did not do anything in the Super Bowl, coming off of a Pro Bowl season. Played awful. All running backs played awful besides Hurts. Hurts was the number one leading rusher. I think Miles Sanders only had 17 yards rushing. I think he had 7 carries for 17 yards. Definitely, and he fumbled his first carry of the game. He thankfully it went out of bounds, but he fumbled, and after that he basically disappeared. It was mostly Kenneth Gainwell, I think, led the out of those three guys, Scott, Sanders, and Gainwell. I think I don't know, he was tied with Sanders for carries with 7, and then Scott had 3 or so, but none of those guys showed up. But definitely hurt Sanders for free agency, especially having a horrible game for that. De'Aaron Shots for Cleveland. I have him again. My Bills outline. It's very small sample size because he'll come in for a game or two, but no doubt when he played, it just he always was unbelievable. Every time he'd come in and take place for Nick Chubb or Hunt. This year he didn't get his opportunity because one of the very rare times both of them were healthy for the whole season. So his name didn't get called up to really help with that. But those are kind of my picks with that. If we're going back to like overall positions, I mean, no doubt with Derek Carr being cut, he is the top guy on that list. But you're getting Bryce Young or whoever. I don't know. Whoever it is, if it is Fields or Bryce Young, you need to go out there and spend as much money as you can. But if you are gonna take the Bryce Young route, it's definitely you need to not be cheap not be cheap this time. You definitely need to go out there and be like the Miami Dolphins. Go out there and be aggressive. Build a team. I know you have Cole Kmet, but 2 tight ends that might be interesting is Gesicki and Schultz. I know Cole Kmet's still on the team, but I think there's a lot of potential in Mike Gesicki. I just don't think he was able to fit in with the scheme with Mike McDaniels because there's just too many offensive pieces for Tua to throw to. So that could be one. Schultz, I know there was problems with that. I think he was a franchise tag this year. He was definitely asking for money. Had a great last 2 years. So that could be a spot. Defensive end Jordan Poyer could be one. Granted, I'd be very careful with that because of just age and injury problems. But even with that, the last 2 years he has played well. In 2021, he made All Pro, and then this year he made the Pro Bowl. So definitely, it's still like great safety for at least 2 or 3 more years, but have to be careful with the injury factor. Definitely don't want to overpay on that because you definitely will kind of regret that. Definitely, you have to be careful the money you spend there. Other 2, Evan Ingram, but I really do believe Jacksonville's going to do whatever it takes to keep him. He definitely earned his money, and I keep saying too. A lot of people I keep saying definitely. I apologize for that. I'll try and use other words for instead of constantly keep saying definitely. Another one too I was surprised too was Jason Kelce. I didn't realize he was a free agent, but no doubt they are going to keep him as long as possible. I know he definitely is up there in age at 35. I don't know if he has plans to retire soon, but I wouldn't say go after him. I was more so just shocked that he was on the list, but I probably lean towards to that Eagles will try whatever it takes to make him retire as the Eagle. LA, I don't see too much on the free agency part. Again, if you are getting Bryce Young, the other question is what's the value for Justin Fields? It's no doubt it'll be a first round pick, but is it going to be a high end first round pick? And if I do the 2023 draft order, let's see here. I know teams like you have that might miss out on quarterback is Carolina could be one. Atlanta maybe. You know, they seem pretty sold on Desmond Ridder. So I have a list right here. So Atlanta is at 8, but that more so kind of ties in with Lamar Jackson video that I have for that for destinations that he probably go to. But you know, quick spoiler: I do have Atlanta as my top candidate for Lamar Jackson if they do decide to trade him. So Carolina could be one, but if you really kind of believe in the saying that Fields is a bust, you wouldn't give up a high pick as that. And the also thing is too is Fields is getting closer to the end of his rookie contract. And you're gonna have to decide if he is worth the money, whatever how much money you're being able to give for his market value. I mean, of course he's not gonna get top 5 quarterback contracts for that, but you have to really build, especially build the offense around him because he's gonna be in a similar situation with Chicago, slightly better, but I mean he's gonna have Frank Reich as his new head coach, but still is gonna be in the same situation with not great talent around him, and it's gonna be hard to evaluate him on that, and even make it more difficult when you have to make the tough decision on if you're gonna give him a extension. Another one could be Tennessee. I've seen Trey Lance rumors for this, a second round pick, but could be a spot. I know they drafted Malik Willis in the 3rd round. I think what really hurt him too was just Tannehill being hurt and kind of forcing Willis to be out there and playing, but it kind of changed a lot of people's minds on how they viewed him. I mean, going before the draft, some people thought he was the number 1 quarterback. I personally thought Pickett was. So far, it's turned out to be right. But some mock drafts even had Willis going high at times in the 1st round last year, or overall just being the 1st round. And so for him to fall into the 3rd round, it shocked a lot of people, especially with his upsides. One person even threw out for comparison a smaller Josh Allen, but again, I think he was just tough. He was put in a tough situation because he was forced to play. He was definitely not ready to step in that role, and when he did, it really exposed him, sadly, and people now have concerns that this guy can't play in the NFL. He's just not ready. He's not ready to play the position, and it's unfortunate that a situation like that being forced too early into a spot could potentially cost him his dream of being a starting quarterback. So even before that, even after Pickett, there was a lot of questions if the other quarterbacks were on the panel. Like you at number 8 is so relatively high for a quarterback to draft, be able to still draft. So they seem pretty high in Ridder, but before that, I wasn't sure. Even with this still, it's like if Lamar Jackson's available, they're probably gonna go after him if he is, and if they do, that's gonna be the end of Ridder. Really, as a starting quarterback. Same thing for Tennessee. If they go out there and get somebody, let's say they do get Fields, that's gonna be the end of Malik Willis. And it's just unfortunate that this draft, the QB class, 2022 QB class, basically got screwed, and it's unfortunate. I know they weren't going into it. It wasn't a great class to begin with outside of Pickett. Even then, people had questions about Pickett for his ability, and I mean the way the draft went, it was right that Pickett should have been the only quarterback in the 1st round, and that it's one that has lived up to that. We'll see this upcoming year with the Commanders because they've kind of greenlighted Sam Howell to be the starting guy. So this is going to be his only chance to being a quarterback. If not, they're going to move on instantly, or halfway through the year they might move on from him. Whoever the backup guy is, if it's still Taylor Heineke or whoever it is, it's definitely an unfortunate situation, especially with David Mills. I mean, drafted in the 3rd round a couple years ago or in 2021, I should say, to kind of front Deshaun Watson that he might be the guy. Played decently in his rookie year, and this year just hasn't lived up to it, and most likely will be replaced by whoever it is. If Chicago, let's say they decide to go with Carter, and then Bryce Young drops them, or they take C.J. Stroud, whoever they might take, or they might trade down. I highly doubt that part, but it could be a chance. So it's who knows with that. But going back, sorry, being a little sidetracked with all that for the quarterback class. So Tennessee might be a spot. I don't know if it's, but it all depends on what's the value of Fields. I feel like the top 15 is I think is way too high for Fields. I do, especially if you're a team like Carolina with the ninth overall pick. I think you're getting robbed if you are making this trade for Fields. I really do think you are getting robbed. Chicago is easily coming away with a another first round pick in the top 10. They could probably go in and take a why I keep saying build around whoever it is. If it is Bryce Young, all right, get the top guy. If that's Johnston or Jordan Addison, whoever you think is a top guy in this class, go after him. Or you might get lucky with one of the top defensive players dropping down and taking him. But kind of quickly going down the list, New York or New England, they have Mac Jones. They're going to stick with him, especially getting Bill O'Brien back. Washington, again, they're hell bent on having Howell be the starter, at least for this year. We'll see how that works out. Tampa Bay might be an actual spot for that. It wouldn't surprise me, but also too that they're in a rebuilding stage. Even if he goes there, there's probably not gonna be a ton of talent around them. I don't have I'm still kind of working on a video for that, trying to do like the whole setup like I did with the Bills. But I mean, just give like a quick idea. You're probably have to get. I think in order to fix the cap, I won't be shocked to think that they might move on from Mike Evans. I mean, Mike Evans this year, I think his cap hit is like $23 million. It's insane. So it to really get past that, the negative $55 million in cap space they're in, I think you have to start making big moves like that. Start moving big pieces around and rebuilding. So Mike Evans, if you want to do that, would probably be gone. You still have Chris Godwin and whoever's left in the receiver position. But I mean, Tampa might be a spot for that to get a franchise guy. Problem is too is what I said earlier about you're going to have to eventually pay him soon. I mean, he's going into his third year, and this is usually the year where teams decide if they do want to extend the guy, or at the very least figure out if they want to pick up the fifth-year option. Seattle, Geno Smith, no doubt with that. Baltimore might be a spot, but if you are, let's say you are doing a trade with Atlanta, like I said, number one spot, you're gonna be up there. Probably you might take a quarterback, whoever is available at that spot. I saw some people say Richardson from Florida. I think they might be way too high, but who knows? But if you are guaranteed, let's say before the draft starts, and you do decide to take that chance on Justin Fields, and kind of give that similar build of Lamar, a cheaper contract for at least the next like 3 years, but you might leave yourself might put yourself in another position of a Lamar Jackson where you're not willing to pay the guy and then you have to start this whole process over again. But it might be a spot at 23. I think it's a very reasonable trade for the value to get take a chance on a Justin Fields who has time in the NFL, who has shown the capability, definitely the running side of it. I mean, if he would have played the final year or the final game of the year, he most likely would have broken Lamar Jackson's rushing record for the season. So you're definitely getting again back a bigger version of Lamar Jackson. Other than that, I wouldn't have said Minnesota, but you're in division, and especially in the same division, that's not going to happen. Also, even if it was possible, Kirk Cousins, they're so crazy. They're so crazy for him. And other than that, I don't see anyone else. Maybe I don't. New Orleans could be. Do we look at New Orleans? New Orleans could be one because they're up for a quarterback. I know they're lately in discussion for Derek Carr, but they're in the same position. They're for right now in the NFL. They're the worst team in cap for the cap space. They're negative $57 million. You probably have to get rid of a ton of people too. Are you able to afford a Derek Carr for his contract, whatever he asks? So that could be a spot at the with the 30th overall pick. That could be a solid option, especially when you're looking at what Fields was originally, being a top 10 pick, going from, getting a top 10 pick value for the 30th overall pick is a pretty solid spot, especially if you're looking for a new franchise guy to build around. So definitely New Orleans could be up there as one. Other than that, I'm just kind of looking one more time. I don't think the Giants. I threw out there either Lamar. I think it's a long shot. Well, not a long shot. I have him at number 2, but I threw him out there as potentially a spot for Lamar. Other than that, I think they're really trying to focus on re-signing Daniel Jones. And I'm not surprised. I think personally for me, I would give him a short-term deal to kind of prove himself once again. If he can do it again, then sign him for a long term. I think at the very least give him maybe the franchise tag could be a possibility. I know they want to do a long-term deal, but I think just going off of just one good year, definitely his best year, I think, overall since he's been in the league. But to start him the big money, like projected to get 35, 37 million, I think is a little too high, and a little too all of a sudden for just one good year. I mean, going back, people question Josh Allen for his 2020 season. People thought if that was a fluke, and after that he's shown it hasn't. But I don't think you should throw the big money out at Daniel Jones just because he had a solid season. I mean, remember, he only had 15 passing touchdowns, and I get he doesn't have great pieces around him. I understand that, but you look at Lamar. Lamar has statistically done better more times than not than Daniel Jones. And we would probably argue that Daniel Jones has slightly a better offense around him than, pieces wise, than Baltimore, especially this year. I mean, outside of Mark Andrews, okay, J.K. Dobbins, but he's constantly banged up. I know Mark Andrews was banged up a lot too this year, but outside of of that, not really a lot of great pieces. So other than that, just looking at the quick list for the draft, I don't see anybody else that is going to take a high pick on Fields. I think if you're a team that's definitely a top 10 and you trade for Fields, I think you'll be making a big mistake. That's not me saying I don't have faith in them, but I just think it's a huge gamble to take on them when there's a chance you can maybe draft a quarterback. But it all depends on how the draft goes. If it gets to a point where you're at let's say 9, let's say if you're Carolina, you're at 9, and there's and all your top guys are gone, and you truly believe in him, then yeah, take the shot. I mean, it goes for anything. It'd be a little hypocritical what I just said, but I mean, if you truly believe in the guy, take the chance on it. But for me, I think it's a little too, especially for the draft value, to take the chance on that. But like I said, Carolina could definitely be a spot for him if the way the draft goes. I mean, I could see easily being 1, 2, 3, 4. So right then and there, you already have four teams. If there's no trades whatsoever, and that just stays the order, you already have 4 teams already that are probably going to probably going to take a quarterback. I mean, obviously guarantee these 2 if you are moving from Fields, you definitely these 2. Indianapolis, they are. Vegas, they are. Atlanta, again, if they're able to get Lamar Jackson, they're gonna have their guy, and they're not gonna be picking there. It'll be Baltimore, and Baltimore might come up and scoop the quarterback up. Richardson would probably be maybe available for them to take. And if you're Carolina at 9, stuck there, especially with Frank Reich, you have to get a quarterback to buy you some time to actually show that you are building a team around you. Then yeah, I won't be surprised if Justin Fields is a spot right there, and Chicago gets a 9th overall pick and gets another great talent at that spot. So it again, it wouldn't shock me with that at all. And I'm probably and I think the more I'm talking about it, I'm kind of talking myself into believing that. But I still think it's kind of a gamble at 9. But again, I wouldn't be shocked at that position, at that spot, if all the other top quarterbacks are gone, that you take them. I still think there's talent there. Is he going to be elite? I don't know, but I still think he's good. I don't believe he's a bust that some people say he is. Like I said in the beginning of the video, it's hard to evaluate that when you don't have great talent around. When you have a dysfunctional franchise around him, it's tough to figure out if he is a guy. So, other than that, that's kind of my thoughts. I think that's pretty much wrapped up on that. A little different for this one. I don't have like a sheet like I have for the other ones for the Lamar or Derek Carr video. Like I've said, I already have the Lamar video done. I'll upload that tomorrow. I still have to do the Derek Carr video. I have that outlined. But for this one, kind of a little bit more off the top of my head and just reading a little bit more, quickly glancing at stuff on this one. So that's kind of my thoughts on that. I mean, overall, kind of summing up. I mean, just to quickly ask, do I think they'll move on? Do I think they'll move on from Fields? I think that more and more you're going to get tempted. They're going to get tempted with Bryce Young, just with the great, the hype around him, what he did at Alabama. I think they're going to get swept up in it, and they are going to take him. So I think it's the best option. I don't think so. I still think you can build a great. I think you still can get a lot of good production out of Fields and build this team to be, and he can really take you to be a playoff caliber team if you actually build a team around them. I really do. I mean, prospect wise, you got talent. Who's better? I mean, I guess I have to admit that Bryce Young seems like no doubt, the more appealing quarterback coming out. But again, it's Justin Fields is no slouch. I mean, he is definitely, I think, has the talent that he showed being a top 10 pick, and he slid. And of course, you're looking back on it, I'm sure the Jets probably are definitely regretting that pick with Zach Wilson. The 49ers, I'm sure, are regretting their pick with Trey Lance. So if you do a redraft, Justin Fields would good chance would probably go second overall. He probably would to the Jets, and I still believe he has that value. He showed you the running ability. He almost broke the most rushing yards by a quarterback. He did that. He almost did that. For passing, I think he was good enough throwing, but who is he throwing to? And most times than not, he doesn't have a true number one receiver, and sometimes it may not even look like he has a true number two receiver. So again, it's tough to judge how good or bad he is, but I do think he should be given a shot. I think Chicago should really give him a shot to be the franchise guy. I don't think they have. I believe they are giving up way too quickly on him. I understand because it's a new regime, but it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate for him. I hope it doesn't ruin his career, and this really kind of ends his NFL career of being a starter. And it would really suck if it would, but just again summing up, I do think that Chicago is going to move on from him and take whoever. I presumably think it's going to be Bryce Young, just because of the hype and everything that surrounds him. So, but that's my thoughts on it. Let me know what your thoughts are on the whole Justin Fields situation. What you believe the Chicago is going to do if they are going to get Bryce Young. If that is if you do believe that's the right option, let me know. If not, let me know too. But I appreciate it. Please subscribe if you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.